So, like, we're going to look at HIV, hepatitis C, and syphilis in our area, in region 4. So, everything is right. We went from, it went low, it's going on a lower, it's going lower, but actually, there's a lot of people are not being tested to know what their status is. HIV amongst the African American Black community is still there. We're still not where we should be. A lot of us don't know there is treatment that can prevent HIV, and that is called prophylactic treatment, and that's called PrEP. So PrEP can be taken daily, and it's prescribed by a doctor. Or some people can just go on a website that's free. You can get the medication for free, but preferably go to your PCP and they'll write a prescription. It's something if you're having a high risk life, high risk behavior, you can take this medication and it'll keep you from becoming HIV positive.
What makes someone high risk or someone that's having high risk behavior?
Okay, so high risk behavior would be someone who's having maybe multiple sex partners and having unprotected sex.
Mhm.
Some people could be look at as you doing injecting drugs, sharing needles, sharing cookers, those type of behaviors. Some I even look at as people who we call would being professional sex workers who use it, what they use to get their to make their money. So we don't in our line of work we don't condemn and we don't make anybody feel a certain kind of way. Our goal is to make sure everybody has dignity, and our goal and to be educated, to know that there's resources out here, and to make sure that they know you don't have to live a certain kind of way. We all know that when someone is not ready, they're just not ready. But what we do is teach them a better way to do things. If you know better, you do better. So
Yes.
this is what we're out giving. We give these resources for free. I do rapid testing here in the office. Is at 103 Independence Boulevard here in Lafayette. I do it on Mondays and Wednesdays. You either can walk in from 9 to 3 or make an appointment with me, and I'll do free and confidential testing on hepatitis, syphilis, and Hep C. So that's the only ones I didn't do. We didn't do anything with gonorrhea, chlamydia, because those are taken. If someone needs those testing, we refer out to a PCP. But those things, those 3 tests I can do in between 15 and 20 minutes. You get your results and you know what your status is. Some people now are really scared of coming to get tested because of the stigma behind it. If I'm going to get tested, then I must be dirty. And
Mm.
that's not what it is. We want people to know, regardless of where you are in your life, we'll meet you where you are so we can go out and have you take better care of yourself. Not only do we do testing in our office, but we do mobilized testing. If someone doesn't have transportation, we can go out and meet them as long as they're okay with being tested out in the community. We will go as long as it's safe and confidential. I will go out and meet someone to be tested so they know their status. No one wakes up and say, I want to be HIV, hepatitis C, or syphilis. No one goes out with that, but life happens. But it's not where you are, it's where you want to go from there. With HIV, you may not have symptoms. You'll be asymptomatic for forever. No people, some people don't even know they even have it till years down the line. So then they're having unprotected sex and they're giving it to other people unknowingly. Same thing, well, syphilis, you can have symptoms, but again, with any one of these sexually transmitted diseases or STIs, you may not have symptoms at all. But if you're being regularly tested, then you know where you are. And
And
if
how
you're
regular is
okay,
regular? How
so
often?
we recommend every 3 months.
Every
If
three
I
months.
test, if I test an individual and they're negative, I recommend that they come back in 3 months and just
And
retest.
is that if the person is sexually active? What if haven't had they haven't been sexually active in the last 3 months? Should they still get tested?
Yes, because sometimes I would, for me, it's all about peace of mind. Peace of mind is priceless. So if you come to me and you had sex 3 months ago, unprotected sex, and you're negative, but let's go ahead and just make sure in the next 3 months there's no antibodies that build up into your bloodstream. Because when you do a rapid test, you're either gonna get the antibodies start to build up in your bloodstream. So if I test you and it's negative, maybe I tested you too soon. Maybe I need to test you again. Let's just follow up in 3 months just to make sure no antibodies or antigens have built up into your bloodstream. Then you know, okay, I'm good, but I would like to be tested every 3 months, or then move down to every 6 months, depending on your lifestyle and what you
Mm-hmm.
choose. Some people get so nervous that they want to come all the time. And you got to tell them, hey, slow up because you're making yourself so, you're working yourself up without going or knowing what exactly is going on with your body at that time. So you want to just slow, come in 3 months, come in 6 months, come in a year. Um, Now, the one thing that hepatitis C, we like to go ahead and get them tested around the same time. Like just make sure when they come in, I like to do all three. Except if they ever had syphilis in their lifetime, I need to know that because even though you're treated, you still can have, it'll still show up in your bloodstream. Because once you have syphilis, even though you're cured, you got the medications, everything is done, it'll still show up. So I like to recommend those who had syphilis in the past to just be aware of that and to know, hey, if I ever go to the doctor and ask them that question, be honest, because it's going to show up. And they're going to
Mm-hmm.
go based on what's called a titer, and a titer number will show you which what your numbers are if that's your baseline, or it will go up, and so that provider will know how to treat you if you're positive for syphilis again. There was a time when we're going to go to hepatitis C. Hepatitis C there was a time where there was no treatment. There was, so let me go back. There was no cure for it, but now there is. You'll take the medication, and you can get cured of hepatitis C. Medication is expensive, but there are programs out here in Louisiana that will cover that medication.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it goes along with PrEP and also with syphilis. Syphilis, there is called the Doxy PrEP. And what that does is you can take that if you have a lifestyle that's, high risk, you can take the Doxy PrEP and that'll keep you from becoming positive or getting syphilis again if you had in the past. Those are the things that are very important to tell our community and anyone who's willing to listen to me, because the numbers are on the rise. And I just found out what we talked about earlier, Ms. Consuela, about the new bill that's out. And it's surprising to me because a lot of times people don't even know they even have these diseases. Now,
Right. And I just wanna
tells them.
let folks know what Rachel is referring to, because I have a very lengthy list of criminal justice bills for the regular 2025 legislative session here in Louisiana. And one of the bills in particular is House Bill number 76. It is a proposed bill by State Representative Pat Moore, who is a Democrat. And this bill creates the crimes of felony and misdemeanor intentional exposure to a sexually transmitted disease. Um, it has not been heard yet, but it will be up in the legislative session. And when I told Rachel about it, she was like, "Oh my God." So, Rachel, tell me, what do you think a law, if this bill becomes law, what a law like this, how could that impact the community that you serve?
So basically, my heart goes out to people who are already having a hard time with this or being criminalized with HIV. That's why many people do not come out to get tested because they're scared that they're going to get charged and go to jail. But what if you don't know? What if you're asymptomatic? What if you years like say I lived a lifestyle years ago, but I'm not living that life anymore. But I never knew I was HIV positive, hepatitis C positive. I had syphilis. I didn't know that until I got tested. So all those people that I have slept with in the past, they can come and say, "Well, I didn't know," and they can, to me, how I want to put it. They can actually charge you with something you had not ever known you had. So it's going to cause more people not to be tested. It's going to cause fear. It's going to increase the stigma behind being tested, especially in our community, especially in areas like the homeless. Like, how do you expect people to be better if you keep putting fear into them? It's going to make it worse, in my opinion. I just
Right.
don't think that would be something that would be positive. It would worsen the situation, only in my opinion. But I hope that who they really look into it and get some expertise, some medical expertise behind it before they pass this, because that sometimes we just don't know that we are positive. We don't know.
Right, right. And Marcus, you've been really, really quiet. All right. And you
Yes.
as a man, a black man, because it's hard enough to get a black man to go to a doctor.
Mhm.
So it's got to be even harder to get a black man to go get tested for
Yes.
sexually transmitted infections. So Marcus, what what is up with the brothers? How do you encourage men, like you go out to barbershops and you talk to these brothers, you telling them about voting? um how can you slip this in on the conversation too, you know?
The only Sway, that's a good question, and the only way to do it is to be upfront, just straight direct. And like I tell a lot of guys, real like like of course I'm formerly incarcerated. Everyone knows that. During incarceration, you know, we get haircuts too.
Mm-hmm.
We get haircuts through individuals using razors. We creative. And I tell these guys all of the time, like, you were locked up for 3 years, 10 years, 15 years, and you didn't always have a barber, a real barber. He couldn't always get to you. So you had a homeboy who took a razor and a comb and lined you up, and anything could have happened. How many times I was nicked, trying to get fresh for a visit? I was nicked, and I don't know if the guy who was cutting my hair, if he was positive for any type of disease or anything. So, it is possible that any of this could happen to us, right? So I just try to tell guys, man, look, your sole purpose on this earth is to be fruitful, to multiply, right? But it's also to do that responsibly, right? Responsibly. And because another thing they need to think about is, if they do have an underlying sickness and you do have a kid, that's the most proudest moment I feel of a man's life. But now that could be transferred to the kid,
Yes.
and the kid doesn't know. We as adults, we can live with it, learn, realize we have stuff, we find ways to adapt. But a kid is just going to be reckless. He's going to be a kid and don't take anything serious, and then he becomes the vessel for spreading that around, and it's not his fault. And he could be doing it, swapping cookies with his friend at daycare. You know what I'm saying? Like, we really got to think about that. So Miss Rachel, while I'm speaking, I have this question. What what diseases mainly in an impacted community should we be on the lookout for? I know diseases don't discriminate. However, what are we more likely to contract being in impacted environments?
So I'm going to say everything, especially when it comes to STIs, because we are not. Oh, let's go. Then we go back. So one of the things that I've noticed is gonorrhea, chlamydia. It's very high right now. Even though I don't test for it, I definitely look at the surveillance in our area. And those are the one of the highest things that we are in our community. African American men, African American women, all we are highly impacted with that. Every new diagnosis that they had so far in from the last surveillance from LDH was all higher in the African American Black community. Um, Along with Hispanic community also. We are not being tested and we are not getting the information because sometimes we don't want to hear because, oh, not me. Oh, I'm not, that's not me. Because I
Right.
look clean, because that person looks clean. It's not about a look. It's about what's in that stream of blood. And you want to know what you're, like you mentioned, Marcus, going when you was in incarcerated, that Nick can transfer. You don't know who else he nicked.
Right.
So just that little speck of blood could be transferred onto you. Just
Yes.
how you know you that needle was clean. How did he sterilize it? That's very very scary. So another thing that we do in our at Twilight Heck is that we give out for those people who are not ready to be going to detox. We give out cookers. And a lot of, people are like, oh my God, you're enabling. No, I'm not. What I am doing is teaching a better way because when somebody's not ready, they're not ready. So what I tell them is even if you're not exchanging needles, you're not using somebody else's needle, what about their equipment that they're using? Because just that drop of blood in that cooker
Right.
can cause you to be HIV, hepatitis C, syphilis. You can get those because now you're exchanging blood products.
Right. Right.
And when you tell somebody that, they're like, it's like a little light bulb, like, wait a minute, I was just thinking it's just needles. No, it's not just needles. It's everything that you do. You have to be careful. And when you're going through that moment of whatever I call them episodes, because I like to keep it, people have their dignity and grace. You're going through your episode, you're not thinking about, oh, does this person have this
Right.
disease? You're thinking about that. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to do to get that feeling that my body needs.
Right.
Whether it be using drugs or even having sex.
Yes.
You're looking for that moment. So basically, you want to always be protected. And you want to always be just informed of what's out there and what you can bring home. So here at Twilight Heck, we give out those preventative kits, and we also give out condoms free. All of this is free. We don't ask if you don't want to tell me your name. I don't need to know your name. If you're asking me for condoms, here you go.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
asking
Yes.
me for can I be tested? And it's clear that you do not have to give me your name. If you want to be tested, you can be tested anonymously. Now, if someone is tested anonymous and they become positive, that's when I need to know your name. But if you come in and you're negative, I don't need to know your name. I just want you to know, we're here to serve you and to give you that peace of mind. And if you are positive, refer you to where you need to get the next treatment. Because it's important if someone is positive, we link them to care. You don't have a PCP, let's get you one because you need to be on this medication as soon as possible. Because if I let you leave my office knowing that you are positive, you may not ever come back to see me. So my goal is to make sure that you have all the information that you have at that time.
Right. Because we all were reckless. I mean, me growing up and falling underneath the tutelage of what we used to call pimps in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Like, how we were raised and impacted.
Yes.
You got to chase the girls. That's
Yes.
your bravado status. So I've done a whole lot of that, right?
Yeah.
But you know, it wasn't until I, on my workplace, they made us start doing trainings. And when I got into blood-borne pathogen trainings, is when my eyes opened on like, wow, bro, you know how many times I could have been, I put myself in those predicaments, and that's what makes me get physicals every year, and get blood work anytime I don't feel like myself. But I think that maybe we need to invoke for jobs to be more advocate in their trainings, not just sexual harassments. You know what I'm saying? But like blood-borne pathogens, because you could spread it on the workplace. Everybody, especially in my field, everybody's sweating. Everybody's leaving, and you get nicked with welding equipment, and you know what I'm saying? And you touching stuff, and other people sweating and their pores open, and stuff like that. So I think that we need to invoke for jobs to do more realistic trainings. You know what I'm saying? To help preserve, because just like bullets, those things don't discriminate.
Mhm.
They don't discriminate.
Not at all. And then you also, with that training, on that on-job training, you got to know what can be how HIV or these disease processes work.
Right.
Because you can look at HIV as a drop of blood. HIV will not stay in it won't be, once it hits the oxygen, it won't last long, is what I want to say. I want to be very clear about some things without going into all the
Right.
details of
Right.
how
Right.
everything works. So if you're going to do that type of testing or training on the job, everyone needs to know, if I'm welding and I hurt myself and I drop and I cut myself. If I touch it 20 minutes after you, then that's it's not necessarily mean I'm going to get that. I have to have an open cut, and I also, that person has to be pretty much the blood has to be really, if I want to say it right, not say fresh, but it's has a certain time limit that if someone is HIV positive, that you can get that you can get exposure. Basically, I'm sorry, I was trying to think of the correct words I wanted to use. We don't want to scare people, but we want to inform them how it works. Because when HIV and it was such a big scare back then. So people didn't want to drink after each other, or they still have the mentality that if I eat after you, I'm gonna get it. That's not how it works anymore. The science shows that's not how it works. But when you don't have the knowledge, you're still thinking in order to put backwoods. That's not how it works anymore. But if we're going to encourage workplaces to do that, we want to make sure they give the correct information to the
Right.
employee.
Right. Well, there's also other fungal infections and stuff that you can get from sweating, and
Yes,
in environments. So
yes,
we just need an overall health health education,
yes.
overall, and just hygienes, and just learning when to just protect ourselves,
At all
because
times.
like I'm saying, some fungal infections are just as, can turn out to be just as deadly as, one of the diseases we're speaking of.
Especially if you have an underlying illness.
Right.
It can really affect you in a horrible way, and you not know what's going on. So it's best that as a person, as an individual, to always, see your PCP, be tested, don't be afraid, and do it even if you're afraid. Because we always thinking that we're going to get the worst news, but how do you know if you don't go follow through with it?
Right.
So you can
Right.
have peace of mind, know where you stand, your status, knowing if I test someone, knowing that they're HIV negative, you guys wouldn't see the look of relief on some of these individuals' face. Just that peace. Some cry, some just laugh, some you just never know what you're gonna get, but you don't know how it feels to tell someone they're HIV positive. That's a hard lick, and that's a lick I've given to several people. And Some people take it good, and some people will be like, I kind of knew. But they were willing to say, they took the step to say, let me find out. Then I can go ahead and get on the medication, because that's medication that will keep you from becoming from HIV to full blown AIDS. And once you get your provider, they will keep you on a medication regimen, and it's no longer a death sentence. And I'm referring to HIV, because when back in the day, HIV, like, that person is dead. And that's not how it is anymore. We encourage those who are HIV positive to take the medication. Once you're on the medication, you take your blood work and you become undetected. So undetected means that you cannot give it to the next person. You don't have enough of that viral load in your body to actually give it to someone if you're having unprotected sex. So I encourage anyone who is HIV positive to just go ahead and take the medication, because you're going to live a long, healthy life. And it doesn't have a look, and nobody has to know but you. You don't have to tell anybody. And that's the other, like, I'm gonna go back to that PrEP medication. And that's an oral medication, but we have another medication that's injectable. If you don't want to take a pill every day, you can take the injection, and that'll keep you from becoming HIV positive. But if you are already HIV positive, the best thing to do is to get to your PCP, get your provider, get on the medication, take it every day, and you're gonna live a long, healthy life.